So tonight we celebrate the solemnity and of the Blessed Mother as the Mother of God. And the church in this wisdom, and this, we just have it the first day of the year. The church decides to give us the example of Mary, who is a person like you and I, but who opened her whole life to the grace of God. And she achieved this special role in the salvation history of humanity. Thanks to Mary, God came into this world. God received our human flesh. God became part of the human experience. And so Mary is the woman who helped the Lord to do that, who helped God to be able to enter into our world and share our human experience. And so the church wants us to take this wonderful mystery of Mary being the Mother of God and to reflect on that and to see how can we also, as Mary, achieve this great sainthood in our lives, this great opportunity to integrate our lives to the life of Christ, to the life of the Lord. And so that's the sample that we have. And we have it in the first day of the year so that we aim high. So when we begin the year, we begin looking up to heaven, looking up to a higher standard. So our gaze is placed on this woman who was able to achieve great things because she opened her heart, her life to the Lord. And that's our goal. So as we reflect in beginning this new year, we pray about that. And we place our gaze in heaven, our gaze on the Blessed Mother as our aim. And that's what would then help us to redirect or orient everything that happens in our lives. If our gaze is down here, then we don't know where to go. We get lost. But if our gaze and aim is high, at the example of the Blessed Mother, then we have a clear path, a clear way that we can achieve. Tonight, I would like to focus on two things about Mary. There has several other things. Of course, it's not only two things with me, you know that. So, the first thing about Mary is her fiat, that is said, her yes, what she told God, yes. And she, as you can see in the gospel, when we heard that narrative about Mary being receiving the news from the angel that she's going to conceive a son, she's confused. She's lost. And she's wondering what's going to happen, but she does not hesitate to say yes. And that's the clear example of Mary is her fiat, her yes to God. She surrendered completely to God. She did not hesitate on giving her life to God, to God's plan for humanity and for our salvation. So that's a great example. But then from there it comes that, of course, it's a yes that implies faith. You know, she knows that she has to trust God. That if God is inviting her to be part of this experience, it's because God knows that she can do it. And that yes is a yes that has faith in it. It is a complete trust in the Lord. But as we know, there's also a yes that brings some humility. Mary knows that she's saying yes, but she knows that she's not worthy. And she knows that she's not able to do it by herself. And she's humble and understands that from the get-go. She understands that she needs God's grace if she's going to be able to do this. And that's what her faith helped her to receive the most important job any human being has received in all humanity, in the history of humanity, and she take it with simplicity and humility. As you can see, she goes about in a humble way. She even goes to visit Elizabeth. She even goes to do her regular things. She could just say like, oh, I'm the mother of God. Now I need all the priests of the temple and everybody to really look up to me and really cool. I'm the mother of God. And she doesn't go about that. She's humble. She's simple. She understands that this is a big thing and God just chose her. And I think that's also important for us because sometimes we are placed in front of big tasks in our life, whether it be in our families, in our jobs, in our church, whatever we are. And we just need to know that we just need to open our hearts and our lives to God and trust in the Lord and understand that from a humility perspective, that we're given that opportunity, we're given that task because the Lord somehow called us and somehow invite us to be part of that task. Mary's yes reflects obedience. She's obedient to God. She said yes to God, and she says yes to the angel and said, let it be done according to your will. I'm the servant of the Lord. She has obedience about herself and how she portrays herself in her life. And I think this is something that we modern people struggle with, being obedient or follow whatever other people tells us, because we think that we make our own rules and we do our own things, and obeying other people seems to be too much. So we deal and we tolerate obeying people in our workplaces, but nobody can tell us anything about our life, our spiritual life, our morals, and all those things. In that area, we don't want anybody to tell us anything. And we do not want to obey anyone. And it's Mary show us the path of obedience. That's what she does. She says, Lord, yes, I'm your servant. Of course, what else can I do? You're choosing me. You are calling me. You are inviting me. My answer is yes. And my answer is just because I just want to serve you the best I can. But of course, she knows that her humility, her faith, and her obedience leads her to take a task that requires courage. It's a very big task, and she needs courage. And this very young person was able to have a lot of courage to face the situation that she was put on. She's given this responsibility of being the mother of God, and she's put in a situation that she could die. They could kill her for that. And she has the courage to go through this. She said to the Lord, yes, and that's her yes. So a yes that makes her humble, that is a faithful woman, that reflects her obedience and her courage. The other thing that Mary is, and that's the second thing, is that Mary is for the church, is the great model of peace, the example of peace. And that's many of us, many in our churches, we decide to have like January 1st to be like the day that we pray for peace. And Mary is the example of peace. And she reflects that in her way, in the way she lived, in her way of approaching things. And she has, because of this deep connection that she has with the Lord, and in this deep reflection in her life, she has this inner peace. Can you imagine a person of tradition has it that is probably around in her teenager years? So can you imagine she's under so much pressure and she does not lose it. She really keeps calm. She's all together, if you will. All together. This is an inner peace that she has. But it comes from her prayer, from her reflection, for her understanding of this deep connection that she has with God. And that's a great example for us. How many of us, our hearts, our homes, our lives are just a mess in terms of we don't have inner peace. We are all scattered and all lost. And we really are lost, I believe, because we do not take enough time in prayer, in reflecting and meditating about the call that God makes to each one of us. And so our lives go this way, the other way, and we don't seem to be really at peace. Mary is a great example of that, inner peace. She has the huge task, lots of problems going around her, and she keeps her cool. She keeps calm, because she has this inner prayer life and inner connection with God. But then she also, if you look about this peace that Mary has, it's in the midst of her suffering. In the midst of her suffering, she also it's the only one that actually keeps the peaceful approach to life. When Jesus is dying on the cross, Mary, who is the mother of the Lord, who is the mother of the person who's dying on the cross, she's by the foot of the cross. Like all the other guys who are friends with Jesus and walk around with him, and all the disciples and apostles, they always scatter. They were not able to keep calm and peaceful at the foot of the cross. They were afraid. And Mary is that example of a peaceful presence. Can people say that about you? That you bring a peaceful presence to the life of others? That's what Mary is. When everything seems to be falling apart, she's there, solid, like a rock by the cross. Because she has this inner peace, this peace that she commands when she interacts with others, and especially in that moment. But Mary is also an example of a peacemaker. She goes to Elizabeth and brings joy and peace and hope to that family. When she walks into the room, like everybody jumps out of joy and everybody feels at peace and feels hopeful now about life. And that's what Mary is, a peacemaker. A person who, when it comes to a place, she brings peace, the peace of God. And John sensed it. And Elizabeth experienced it. And they leapt of joy because of that. But if you also know the experience of the wedding in Cana, that was a wedding that was going to go really terribly. Because they were going to have no wine, no nothing to celebrate. That was really a failed wedding party. I mean, the wedding was good, but the party was going to be a terrible party. And Mary jumps in and saves the party. She jumps in, like she sees that this is going to become chaotic. This is going to become really not a great moment for this family and for this group of people who are celebrating the love of these two people. And she jumps in and brings peace. Tells Jesus, hey son, this is about time for you to start working. And he works the miracle and bring wine and make the water into wine. And now the party, the celebration, the joyful celebration of that wedding continues. And it only continues because Mary was able to realize that something was about to break down. And she jumped in and solved it. An example of a peacemaker. And that's how she does. But the other thing that Mary is also is an intercessor. She intercedes for us. She, in her motherly care and love for her son, but for the whole humanity, she keeps interceding always to us, for us to the Lord. Just like when she went in Cana to tell Jesus to make this water into wine because they don't have wine, just as she goes that to Jesus, whenever you have a problem and you pray for her intercession, she goes to the Lord and tells the Lord what's going on in your life. He intercedes for us because that's what she does. She brings peace. She restores the things that are falling apart. She restores order in the life of the people. And that's what she does as an intercessor. So tonight, as we continue to celebrate this solemnity to the Blessed Mother, let us be people who say yes to the Lord, trusting completely in the Lord and surrendering our lives to the Lord, especially as we begin this new year. But also, let us be people who bring peace, who with our presence and our love and our imitation of Mary, help others to really have peace and joy in their lives.